Welcome parents, welcome students to the C.E.B M.U.N and the International Fair.
It's an honor for me to present you the members of the Security Council of the United Nations.
Let's welcome the delegations that will participate on the debate.
The delegation of the United States of America. The delegation of the plurinational state of Bolivia. The delegation of the Russian Federation. The delegation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Delegation of the French Republic. Delegation of the Italian Republic. The delegation of the Kingdom of Sweden. Delegation of People's Republic of China. Delegation of the Empire State of Japan. Delegation of People's Republic of Korea. Delegation of the Republic of Senegal. Delegation of Syrian Arab Republic. The delegation of Arab Republic of Egypt. We also want to welcome a cultural representation of all the countries represented. We want to welcome the host country, the Dominican Republic. Representation of Egypt. Representation of Bolivia. Cultural representation of Syria. Representation of Japan. Representation of China. Cultural representation of Korea. Representation of Russia. Cultural representation of Senegal. Cultural representation of Sweden. Representation of the United Kingdom.
We will now be moving on to the stands. The first ones to visit are China, Senegal, Bolivia, and France.
Senegal has beautiful beaches that invite you to swim like Sally Portugal.
Cuando vayas a Senegal tiene unas playas hermosas, las cuales te harán querer ir a nadar y tomar el sol como Sally, Portugal.
You can also visit the capital Dakar, a distant city that is composed by elegance and noise.
The weather in England is temperate with warm wet summer and cold wet winters.
Bienvenido a Inglaterra. El clima de Inglaterra es templado, con veranos cálidos, húmedos e inviernos fríos y frescos.
The weather varies from day to day and throughout the country as a whole.
El clima varía día a día y en todo el país.
In general, the West Coast and mountainous areas receive the most rain.
En general, las costas oestes y las áreas montañosas reciben la mayor cantidad de lluvia.
The politics of England constitutes a major part of the United Kingdom.
La política de Inglaterra constituye la mayor parte de la política del Reino Unido.
Since England is more populated than the other states together.
Ya que está más poblada que los otros países.
Before the Act of Union in 1707, England was constituted for a king and a parliament.
Antes del Acta de Unión de 1707, Inglaterra estaba gobernada por un rey y un parlamento.
Sports in the United Kingdom has been a social and economic activity.
El deporte en el Reino Unido ha sido una actividad social y económica muy importante.
In the same way, the United Kingdom has been one of the countries that has most influenced world sport.
American fashion is eclectic and informal. New York City and Los Angeles are the centers of America's fashion industry. They are considered leading fashion capitals.
La moda americana es ecléctica e informal. La ciudad de Nueva York y Los Ángeles son el centro de la industria de la moda americana. Estas son consideradas las capitales líderes en moda.
New York City is considered to be one of the big four global fashion capitals, along with Paris, Milan, and London.
La ciudad de Nueva York es considerada una de las grandes cuatro capitales de la moda global, solo con París, Milán y Londres.
Tourism. Tourists visit the U.S. to see natural wonders like cities, history landmarks, and entertainment venues. Americans seek similar attractions as well.
Turismos. Los turistas visitan los Estados Unidos para ver bellezas naturales como ciudades, culturas y lugares de entretenimiento. Los turistas los Estados Unidos trata de recrear áreas como áreas de vacaciones y áreas de recreación.
Sport. The four major professional leagues of sports are baseball, basketball, football, and hockey.
Deportes. En Estados Unidos, los deportes son una parte importante de la cultura. Las cuatro ligas de deporte principales son el béisbol, el básquetbol, el hockey y el fútbol.
The U.S. is politics. The U.S. is a federal republic in which the President, Congress, and federal courts shares powers reserved to the national government, according to its constitution. At the same time, the federal government shares sovereignty with the state governments.
Política. Los Estados Unidos son una república federal en la cual el presidente, el Congreso y las Cortes Federales comparten poderes reservados con el gobierno nacional acorde con su constitución. Al mismo tiempo, el gobierno federal comparte soberanía con los estados gobernados.
The executive branch is headed by the president and is formally independent of both the legislature and judiciary. The cabinet serves as a set of advisors to the president.
The Swedish government are led by a cabinet of ministers, which is led by the prime minister.
Los asuntos del gobierno sueco están dirigidos por un gabinete de ministros que está dirigido por el primer ministro.
The government consists of a prime minister and 22 ministers. The Swedish constitution consists of four fundamental laws.
El gobierno consiste en un primer ministro y 22 ministros. Están formados por 4 leyes fundamentales. Tourism in Sweden contributes about 3% of the national domestic gross products and attracts millions of tourists, which generate more than 15 million over 9 states per year.
El turismo en Suecia contribuye con alrededor el 3% del Producto Interno Bruto Nacional, que atrae millones de personas, que generan más de 56 millones de pernoctaciones por año.
Welcome to Russia. For many centuries, most of the buildings in this country were built of wood, so little has survived to this day.
Durante muchos siglos, los edificios eran construidos con madera, por lo que hoy en día no queda muy poco ha sobrevivido de esos edificios en pocos hasta ahora.
Japan is an island nation of the Pacific Ocean with crowd cities, imperial palace, modern national parks, and thousands of temples. Where to go?
¿Dónde ir?
Fushimi Narita-ji, Kinkaku-ji, Sensao-ji, Tokyo Skytree, and Universal Studios Japan.
Best weather, October to November.
Mejor clima, de octubre a noviembre.
Cherry blossom, March to May.
Flores de cereza, marzo a mayo.
Rainy typhoons, to June to September.
Lluvioso y tifones, junio a septiembre. Table manners, wipe your hands with towel.
Limpiar sus manos con una toalla.
Use chopsticks and to cut and pick up food. Never use your fingers.
Usar palillos para cortar y recoger comida, nunca uses los dedos.
Konnichiwa, arigato, susumase, ego, hi.
The Bolivian culture is full of traditions and interesting and slightly common customs.
La cultura de Bolivia está llena de tradiciones y costumbres interesantes y poco comunes.
This is because they come from a wide origins variety, including the ancient indigenous groups, the Catholic Spanish, and the Indian traditional culture.
Esto se debe a que proviene de una amplia variedad de orígenes, incluyendo los antiguos indígenas, los españoles católicos y la cultura tradicional andina.
The Carnival of Oruro is one of the most popular holidays of the whole country. People dance some typical dances as the cueca or the marina.
El Carnaval de Oruro es una de las fiestas más populares en todo el país. En él se baila algunas de las típicas como la cueca o la marinada.
Bolivia is a country with a lot of tourist attraction.
Bolivia es un país con mucho potencial turístico.
In the country, there are 6 patrimonies of humanity declared by UNESCO.
En el país hay 6 patrimonios declarados por la humanidad declaradas por la UNESCO, tales como
the ruins of the city Tinahuaco,
las ruinas de la ciudad de Tinahuaco,
the city of the Potosí,
la ciudad de Potosí,
the Amazon,
las Amazonas,
the Jesuit missions of Chiquito,
las misiones jesuíticas de Chiquitos,
Samaipata Fort,
el fuerte Samaipata,
and Oruro Carnival.
The gastronomy of Bolivia is now made for this variety of dishes that differ from zone to zone.
La gastronomía de Bolivia es conocida principalmente por su variedad de platos que difieren zona en zona.
The sport of Bolivia. Undoubtedly, soccer is the primary sport in Bolivia. No other sport is recognized and received as much attention as football has.
Sin lugar a dudas, el fútbol es el deporte primario en Bolivia. Ningún otro deporte se reconoce y recibe tanta atención como la tiene el fútbol.
Bolivia weather consisting for semi-arid climates.
Clima de Bolivia, constituido por tierras altas semiáridas.
Bolivia weather differs really depending on the altitude.
El clima de Bolivia difiere mucho dependiendo de la altitud y topografía de la región.
The temperatures vary from hot and humid during the day to freezing cold at night.
Color, smell, and taste are the traditional aspects used to describe Chinese food.
En China existen 3 principales tradiciones para describir la comida china, que son el olor, el color y el sabor,
as well as the meaning, appearance, and nutrition of the food,
así como su significado, la apariencia y la nutrición de su comida.
It is considered inappropriate to use knife in the dining table.
En China se considera inapropiado usar los cuchillos y tenedores en la mesa, por lo tanto su principal utensilio son los palillos que lo usan para cortar y cargar comida.
I'm going to talk about the culture of China. China is one of the world's oldest cultures, tracing back to 1,000 years ago.
La cultura de China es una de las culturas más antiguas del mundo que remonta hace miles de años.
The area in which the culture is dominant covers a large geographical region in Asia.
La zona donde predomina la cultura china cubre una gran parte de la región geográfica de Asia
with customs and traditions varying greatly between provinces, cities, and towns as well.
Tourism in China.
El turismo en China.
China has become one of the world's most watched and hot inbound and advanced tourist markets.
China se ha convertido en uno de los mercados con más turismo y con más clientes de entrada y de salida.
China is the fourth most visited country in the world after France, the United States, and Spain, with 56 million international tourists.
China se posiciona en el cuarto lugar de países más visitados del mundo después de España, Estados Unidos y Francia con 56 millones de visitantes internacionales.
To the historical and political facts of the China's developing economy, China's public sector account for a bigger share of the national economy than the burgeoning private sector.
And begin a long journey throughout the old continent until they settle and find a more stable home. And in North Korea, the radioactive consequences of a hypothetical nuclear war between North Korea and the United States. That is the warning of Paul and Edwards, an expert at the Freeman Spogler Institute for International Studies, belonging to Stanford University. The historian specialized in technology describes the effect of a nuclear war on Earth and human beings.
The session opens at 9:38 a.m. We will commence today's session with a roll call. When your delegation name is mentioned, please say present and voting if you're voting. In the case your delegation isn't voting, you say present.
People's Republic of China. Empire of Greater Japan. United States of America. Russian Federation. United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Republic of Korea. Plurinational State of Bolivia. French Republic. Kingdom of Sweden. Italian Republic. Arab Republic of Egypt. Syrian Arab Republic. Republic of Senegal. Thank you, President.
Okay. Is there any point or motion on the floor? Delegation of France, you have been recognized. To what point do you rise? Okay, thank you, delegate. Any other motion? Delegation of Sweden, you have been recognized. Thank you, delegate. Any other motion? Okay. What delegations are in favor with the motion of France, which is the situation in Syria? Please raise your placard. Okay. So the topic of the agenda will be set to the situation in Syria. Is there any motion to set the speaker's time? Delegation of Sweden, you have been recognized.
Delegation of the United Kingdom would like to set a motion to set the speaker's time to 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you, delegate. Any other delegation? Delegation of United States, you have been recognized.
The delegation of United States of America wants a motion to set the speaker's time in 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Thank you, delegate. Delegation of France, you have been recognized.
The delegation of France would like the motion to set the speaker's time in 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Thank you, delegate. Delegation of Japan, you have been recognized.
The delegation of Japan would like to make the motion to set the speaker's time to 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, delegate. Any other delegation who want to set the speaker's time?
Set the unmoderated caucus time to 30 minutes.
To set the motion to the moderate caucus time in 27 minutes.
Thank you, delegate.
I would like to set a motion to the moderated caucus time to 30 minutes.
Osha, want to set a motion to set the moderate caucus time in 20 minutes.
A motion to moderate caucus time in 35 minutes.
So set the motion to the moderated caucus in 3 minutes.
UK would like to second the motion made by US to set the unmoderated caucus time to 25 minutes.
Okay, thank you, delegate.
The unmoderated caucus time in 15 minutes.
Thank you, delegate.
Delegation of Bolivia would like to set the motion to set the speaker's time in 2 minutes.
Thank you, delegate. Any other delegation who want to set the speaker's time? Okay. The primary speaker's time will be about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Okay, today's session will be on the topic of the situation in Syria. We will now moving on to the speech. Delegation of Sweden, you were the first one to speak, so you have the word.
It is a high time that we increase our efforts to support the host nation. My name is Tirso Santiago Carbuccia, and along with Mirsatis Alexandra, we represent Kingdom of Sweden. We must all come together to try to support those suffering the consequences of the fighting in Syria. This support must go to those flying their homes and to those generously receiving people in need of shelter. We hope that the present delegations will engage only to fruitful debates in order to make this conference productive and relevant. Let's all take wise decisions after considering every resolution. Have in mind the United Nations was created to make a better world and not to satisfy poor individual wishes. The Kingdom of Sweden wants to help the people in Syria. War is something that is destroying too many lives, and in case of Syria, a whole nation. This is not a problem just between those for or against Mr. Assad. It isn't war something that affects all the nations around the world. Are we going just to watch what is happening and do nothing just because this problem is not between our countries? We are losing innocent people, kids and entire families. We are losing our feelings, and Syria deserves at least our care and help for this terrible situation.
The delegation of Egypt greets you pleasantly and hope that through this meeting we will be able to draw a concrete and effective solution for the situation in Syria. First, we know that the situation in Syria affects us directly because being a strategic point for migration, we have welcomed more than 300,000 Syrians over the year, and that our country does not restrict the entry of refugees. Second, when taking into account the deplorable situation that is experienced in this country affecting other nations, there is no doubt that the best solution to everything is to extinguish the government and its political leaders. As we see that our government has contributed to the chaos and decay of the economy, not only internal but also external to the country. Our decision will always be the same, and we will be firm with this.
Senegal, like most African countries, disagrees with the rebel army causing the Syrian civil war, and understands that it is a threat to the interest and security of all African countries. This war has kept many nations, including Senegal, in a state of insecurity and instability. So, Senegal's priority today is to seek a solution once and for all for this problem and the Syrian civil war. And we need to collaborate with you, delegates, to find a solution today. So, that's all, and I give the word back to the chair.
Thank you, delegate. Okay, delegation of UK, you are the next on the list, so you have the word.
Syria is already making the same mistakes they have made in the past. So let's take the best decision for our country and for us. Syria is a country of the world full of innocent people who does not have anything to do with the war or the motives of why they started. So let's make this decision wisely because it affects us, but them more. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, delegate.
I give my word back to the chair.
Thank you, delegate. Delegation of USA, you were next on the list. You have the word.
Honorable President and esteemed delegates, whoever does not live to serve does not serve to live. The delegation of United States of America is willing to serve a great nation, the Syrian Arab Republic. Syria has been in a dictatorship since 1971. This regime has promoted state terror, violence, and has killed a lot of innocent people, including children. And the world got to appreciate the worst chemical bombings that took place in Syria, which allowed us to notice the little human values that the current government has for its own citizens. USA's priority is no longer to sit there and focus on getting Assad out. USA's priority is to really look at how we can get things done, who we need to work with to really make a difference for the people in Syria and to end terrorism. We can allow atrocities like we all witnessed in the past 70 years happen in our world, not anymore. Fellow delegates, we need to think together about new forms of multilateral corporations that make it possible for us to consolidate achievements and the fights against terrorism. USA will not rest in their efforts to seek justice for the victims of these abhorrent attacks in Syria. We need to do something. We need to work this out. Thank you, and I give my word to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate. The next delegation on the list is the delegation of France. So you have the word.
Honorable members of the board, delegates and observers, more than 320,000 dead, more than 30 million wounded, 12 million displaced, 5 million refugees, 45 million euros in humanitarian aid, 100,000 soldiers in the Syrian army, 7,000 air strikes by the international coalition. That is the current situation in Syria. Delegates, we need to reflect and take the decision to take specific actions and stop this genocide. It is not enough for the United Nations to issue resolutions condemning attack, and all nations are willing to sacrifice their particular interests in favor of peace on the planet. We must also take into account that this war has brought into play the human rights of the residents of Syria. Finally, we would like to recall the words of Francois Deleuze, who said that it is our responsibility to do absolutely everything we can, as humanly as possible in this situation. Delegates, France urges you to lend our ears to the possible solutions for this serious problem. Thank you, and I give the word back to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegation of Japan, you're the next on the speakers list. So you have the word.
We humbly greet you in the name of the fight of Greater Japan. A topic that brings us together today is not to be taken lightly. With more than 40.5 million of immigrants, a radius of 4 out of 5 in poverty, and 1 out of 3 in starving, and 70% of its inhabitants unable to even access to a regular source of water. The situation in Syria is alarming, not only because of the everlasting hunger and disease, but also because of the constant fear, suffering, and desperation that they have to go through every day, knowing that they are not safe in their own homeland. It is because of that we must take action today, for the hope lies in our hands. Thank you for your attention, and may we agree in our choices today.
The delegation of Italy. So, the delegate, you have the word.
We are Wilka Paola and Pedro Ferrer, and we are representing the delegation of Italy. The Syrian civil war began in 2011. Since then, more than 450,000 have been killed and more than 1 million injured. Multi-sided armed conflict in Syria fought primarily between the government of President Bashar al-Assad. The countries involved in the civil war are United States, Europe, Turkey, and monarchies of Medium Orient. The Syria crisis have taken so long because of million refugees, a whole host of rebel movements, and constant negotiation. In consequence, may have a social and economic impact. Over 13 million Syrian displacement half the country population. More than 1.7 million Syrian refugees. With the Security Council and USA divided over Syria, the responsibility falls on individual states to end the indiscriminate attacks. I prefer that justice be taken with Syria so that other countries can contribute in peace. Thank you. I give the word back to the chair.
That says United States is being hugely hypocritical here because you're the first one who intervenes in Syria using chemical weapons, and now you come here saying we don't need to use them. It's hugely hypocritical. As I said, we disagree totally with the use of chemical weapons, but we do agree with the intervening.
Thank you, Delegate. Your motion has been granted. So we will continue the moderated caucus for 15 minutes. Okay, delegation of Senegal, you have the word.
Delegations of Senegal, Japan, Bolivia, and North Korea and Sweden has took the following decisions. We will need the phased retirement of the president of Syria, to implement organized democratic elections, the putting trial of the president in the International Court of the M.U.N, military exile of military leaders in Syria, quality of refugees, giving them resources to build to rebuild Syria from what it has become. Take down political influence from the P5 and take peace and give peace corps from the ONU to Syria to keep protection and bring unit of peace corps to find and resolve the ISIS group.
President, General Secretary, and Rapporteur, you can leave now. There is a very important part of this event that is going to be going on right now. Somebody give me the poster. Are we ready? Come here. Okay. Thank you, guys. There you go.